We're back. Welcome to BrotoGP.
I don't know what the fuck that was that Rob just did, but I'm Broese, the Bromore monster, and that incredibly flaccid, non-erect, in desperate need of Viagra intro was Rob. Sitting in the middle of the screen there is one Kyle Hyman, like Wyman and Hyman, like the vagina, you know what I'm talking about. We're here and we're ready to record an episode. All you guys thought I wouldn't do it for the whole episode. I'm going to try and give myself strep throat in the process. That being said, Kyle, raise your hand. Just before we were recording, Kyle was showing us what he could and couldn't do with his wrist, because he broke his wrist, but it looked like he was jacking off. It was great. It was everything you wanted and more. Kyle jacking off.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, the Bromon monster. Bromorn?
It's the Bromorn monster,
The
motherfucker.
Bromon monster. There we go. If you haven't watched Big Mouth, go watch it. We're not talking about Netflix.
Yes, because I can only do that voice for like 3 minutes tops.
Like 3 minutes tops, title of Rob's sex tape. Yeah, that's right. I'm doing the sex tape titles now.
You have to do those in that voice from now on.
I can't do it, so it's like impossible.
We're back. It's the Thai round just happened. We got a lot of racing to talk about. There's some silly season going on in MotoAmerica, World Superbike, all that good stuff. As Kev already just told you, Kyle is here. We had planned to play some Jeopardy and failed miserably at that, but it's gonna happen. I promise.
Hold on. I don't want to point out that we didn't fail miserably at that.
No.
In the same 48-hour period, my mother had major surgery where organs were removed from her body, and then apparently PG&E decided that we're going to turn off all the power to the Bay Area, but then not tell you when, but also tell you we might do it. It was like the Brett Favre of power companies. Like, we may or may not leave. I'm not really sure when I'm going to do it. I really don't know what's going to happen, but something's going to happen, maybe. I had no power, then I had power, then I had no power. The idea that I could write out some desperately hilarious content through the situation was like most of the fans who think that I can just be funny on call all the time, thus I should do it for them whenever they want.
I mean, he only does that for me, everybody.
Yes, exactly.
How's your mom? Is she better?
My mom is excellent. Dude. Almost as excellent as my Scoops Ahoy t-shirt that I currently have.
Well, if we're going with shirt demonstrations here, come on.
If we're going with shirt demonstrations, I think Kyle might be the only one that's getting paid to wear that shirt.
Yeah. God damn it.
Son of a bitch.
Yep.
I still need one of those hats, Kyle. I'm joining the army next year for sure because I need one of those hats.
Join the army.
It's gonna happen. It's gonna happen.
Oh yeah.
All right, let's get to this.
Okay. Hold on, Writer's Law.
Yeah, before we talk about
speaking of people who are
racing,
getting paid to do certain things.
Yeah, we didn't plug them all last month, but we're going to right now. So Writer's Law, they're your California motorcycle accident injury lawyers. If you need help, legal help, your insurance is jerking you around, you've been hit, you need to recover some money from medical bills, anything, even if you get hit on a bicycle. I had a racer friend that got hit on a bicycle, had a bunch of medical bills stack up. Writers Law took care of him. So please give them a call. That's Writers Law, Writers spelled with a Z, and Law after that. Check them out at writerslaw.com. Lawyer Rob and Cy are waiting for your phone call.
What the fuck is more dangerous, racing motorcycles or just riding your bicycle on the street?
Bicycle.
Riding your bicycle on the street.
Bicycles are fucking dangerous. Y'all guys are crazy.
I mean, yeah.
Only on the bike paths now.
Yeah.
I got hit by some lady in Alabama a few years ago, and that was it.
Done.
No more riding on the street.
That's because they don't let us ride on the racetrack at Barber with bicycles.
Yeah, that's some BS.
What?
The owner of the track
Why not?
does not allow bicycles on the track.
What?
There's also a specified burnout location,
I'm like,
right?
Wow, okay. Specified First Amendment zone. Well, you know what I mean? Like at the protests, you see that shit? Like the First Amendment zone. Like here's where you're allowed to express your creator-given right or whatever. You can do it right here in this little box, and no one look, and no one will put it on TV. You got a specified burnout zone and no bicycles. What is the justification for no bicycles?
I don't know.
Maybe it's liability. Maybe they need Riders Law.
Yeah.
Boom. There it was.
There it is.
I mean, to be fair, it is a very, very nice facility. And I saw some kids riding bicycles around in the grass, and the owner was going to be pissed about that.
You shake a stick at him?
Oh, yeah, totally.
You whippersnapper.
You damn kids.
Yeah, exactly. You went all Clint Eastwood on him.
Oh, no, not that far. All right, let's get into this. So the
I know Rob sex tape.
Thank you. Kind of an almost exciting thing happened to us at the Thai round of MotoGP, right? We're just jumping straight into the round. We're not even going to talk about the stuff that happened before. Maybe a little bit. Quatararo put up an amazing fight against Marquez, pretty much led the entire race and lost the race with, 8 corners to go. I'm not gonna say how I felt going into that last lap. Kev, I want you to jump in here with how you were feeling about Quatararo in that race. I feel like you said before the race that it might be his time.
You know what? I thought like the night before, I was just thinking like it's all lined up. Marquez had his little tumble and his alleged tumble, and we'll get to that later because that didn't actually happen. But you know what? When he was leading the race, thought, wow, he might do it, right? Like he could do it because does Marquez want to get in a tussle with like kind of someone who, like I've said this before about Quatararo, like he shouldn't even be there. You know what I mean? Like he did terrible in Moto3 on that terrible chassis in Moto2. Then he gets some wins. Like the whole tumble happens. Like he's in a position that like you almost shouldn't have been in. So he's got less than nothing to lose. You know what I mean? Like when you can seal up the deal, get the title. Do you want to clash with him? But at the same time, I thought like Marquez had enough last lap, last turn losses, and I thought, nah, he's gonna go for it, and he's just too good. Quatararo is good. He's a beast, but Marquez was winning races in the same position his first year, so I just think that the skill and experience disparity was too big. Entering that last lap, I thought, nah, Marquez is gonna pull the trigger on him. It's just he's good. He's not gonna. Losing out to Dovi, losing out to Ducati, and all that is one thing, but losing out to a rookie to not win because that steals the thunder. If Quatararo wins the same day he wins the title, a lot of the story is Fabio.
Oh, we wouldn't even be talking about Marquez this entire episode if that had happened.
So the night before, I thought like this could be the time, but I kind of had like shades of Gibernau and Rossi. You know what I mean? Like. That's kind of what I was thinking during the end of the race.
Kyle, did you think he could pull it off?
I really think he could have actually. I mean, I think he's going to want that last corner back because he went to the brakes just a split second too late. It's really hard to judge those slow corners like that. And if he had been able to slow the thing and stay, ahead or just close enough to the inside where Marquez couldn't turn in on him, it was going to be Quatararo's race. So, I mean, it really could have gone either way. He overcooked it into that corner, and that was it. He was able to get him squared up.
Well, and that's a lot of people were talking about how the Yamaha had an advantage in the fourth sector, and it really seemed like he was unable to use that because that final braking zone, he was just a little bit too far. Wasn't able to block pass back effectively. Yeah. But to Kev's point, right? That's that inexperience. Like Quatararo so far this season has gone from getting being in podium position and getting a DNF because his shifter fell apart to now leading almost the entire race, right? So if he learns this entire season, maybe there's still hope for him the rest of this.
Don't forget, this is the kid that stalled it that one race. Remember that? Everyone said, "Oh, this is when he can get his podium." You know what I mean? Excuse me. And then he stalls
Jack Miller
it. Right?
Just did that.
Right, Jack Miller. Yeah, he hit the actual kill switch or something. Like he didn't even just stall it; he hit the switch, and he knew it too.
Shouldn't even be a kill switch,
right?
And he's not Spanish, so he can't just cheat and make the marshals wait for him to start up.
No, he can't just ride backwards on the track.
Yeah, hold on, guys, stop everything. Right.
Yeah. No, I mean so I think one thing that's going for Quatararo too is it seems like Yamaha has developed some consistency as of late, right? Like even here in Thailand, Michelin brings a new rear tire that they'd never seen before that was kind of comparable to an Austria tire, and somehow they're able to, at least for Bull, even Morbidelli was up there in quite a few of the sessions, but Yamaha has figured something out, and it's really helping out Quatararo, and it's helping Mav a little bit.
Well, it's interesting because even though they haven't really, I mean, Mav had the one win, but even though they haven't really been able to take that next step and consistently fight at the front, they're always all in the top 10. Like, you know what I mean? Like, they're always doing
The anti-Honda.
really well. Right, it's the anti-Honda, and to an extent, like the anti-Ducati in many ways. It seems like, you know, whenever one's doing good, the other one's doing terrible. But I think the consistency is definitely there. And Fabio's just leading the charge for them, taking, you know, the turning the dial, you know, up to 11, Spinal Tap style, so to speak. It's just it's interesting to me that it's Fabio is the one that's able to do it, and the guys who've been on that bike the longest are the ones who aren't able to do it.
Actually, it's almost the longer you've been on that bike, the worse it's getting.
I mean, for Quatararo, it's like, you know, he doesn't know any different. You know, so he comes in and he doesn't know where he stacks up. He doesn't know what the bike is supposed to feel like, so he's just riding it as it is. And I think the guy's like as fit as anyone on the track. So the only thing that's going to hold him back is his technique, which has gotten better, and that's what's actually brought him closer to the front, it looks like, throughout the year. But, you know, there's like Maverick, it's almost like he's a little bit mind-fucked right now, because he goes into the race wondering if he's going to be able to keep up with Fabio, and the moment you're wondering, you know, you're not putting in those laps, and then
I mean,
all of a sudden when you're 3-4 seconds back, now almost the pressure's now off. Now he can actually ride his own race, and he starts doing the laps. I don't think there's anything wrong with the bike.
Yeah, for the past
think
three races, he's done exactly that.
Like
off.
Fabio and Maverick are legitimately the distracted boyfriend meme. You know what I mean? Like, that's literally, like, Marquez is so distracted, or not Marquez, Maverick by it. Like, they're literally that. Like, he is. Everyone's not looking at Fabio, including Yamaha, and Maverick's like, I won, like, I'm the only one winning on this thing, but he's so mindfucked because everyone's paying attention to Fabio that he's not, like, riding his own race. Maverick is literally that chick in the distracted boyfriend meme.
Is it just the mindfuck? Like, because he goes into the race, like, knowing there's like a 50-50 chance whether or not he's going to get a good start. Kyle has frozen somehow with his brand new internet. But so like I don't know how he can do this. I don't know how you can be a professional athlete at that level and still punt the starts as bad as he does. Oh, nope. There it all went.
You there, Kyle? Keep talking.
Yeah.
Oh,
we're back.
I got you guys now. So I had Kevin perfectly, and I had no Rob. You were frozen.
I had Kevin perfectly and no
Boom.
Kyle.
Right. That's everyone's dream, having me perfectly.
All right,
Are you still
Maurice.
recording? I don't give a fuck. You see that? Try to sabotage us. We talk a little bit how we didn't even want to talk about Marquez, and instantly we received technical difficulties. This is some horse shit.
PG,
Just like that fucking crash that he had. This massive crash that there's no onboard footage. The only footage they got. This is a traveling circus with camera everywhere. They have literal cameras that go, like, you can move on the fly, and they're gyroscopic, and the only footage they have of him crashing is like the grainiest security cam Bigfoot footage, like camera footage from Alien Autopsy 1992 shit, right? Look at his bike. Look how messed up it is. Whoa, let me see the crash. No, we don't have that crash. And then everyone's like, there's no crash footage? And then, like, 4 hours later, they're like, oh, yeah, we found some, like, old Nokia brick cell phone footage of it. It's got, like, 9 pixels. Yeah, he crashed. He totally had to go to the hospital. He's not going to be able to ride. Boom, he can ride. He comes running. It was like wrestling. It was like literally when the guy gets hit with a chair and he's knocked out, they take him out on the stretcher, and then he comes running back. That's the fakest ass shit ever. Not to just come back with the Fabio shit, but what the fuck? I'm like, this is the most most manufactured shit I've ever seen.
Wait, so
This
are you saying that
literally-
MotoGP is manufacturing technical difficulties?
Literally, like 2 days earlier, they had that picture of Jorge Lorenzo watching the guys go by on the bike, and there was a guy in his leathers wearing his helmet riding the Repsol bike. Like, they fucked that up.
Wait, I didn't see that. Wait,
I'll,
what the hell?
I'll send it to you. There's literally a picture where they're doing like parade laps in the streets, and then
Yeah.
Jorge is on the side, like pointing at the thing, and pointing at the Repsol bike, and it's the Repsol 99 bike, and he's like, there's someone, right? The Dios Miller, that hella funny page, made like a Scooby-Doo meme about how it was actually Jack Miller, but like it was just like
pulling
some
the helmet
random
off?
guy
Yeah.
in his leathers, in his helmet, on his bike.
So whatever. Let's go back to Yamaha, because I feel
Okay.
like Kyle had a point there that he was trying to make about Maverick fucking pussing out something, and we're gonna talk about Maverick starts is what we're gonna talk about.
Yeah, because that was literally what Kyle was saying. Was like he falls back, but then he gets in his own groove and runs his
Yeah.
own race.
Yeah. So all right.
Perhaps, Senor Wyman, you could expound upon this interesting tidbit of yours. Dazzle us, if you will, with your in-depth knowledge, both experiential and observational.
Well, this is not a jab necessarily, because I've been in the same situation where, get a good start, fall back, find the groove towards the end of the race. It kind of happens. It's like you get in at the end of the race and the crew chief's like, well, you did this time at the end of the race. Why didn't you do it on lap 9? What happened on lap 9, 10, and 11? So, if you don't have the confidence and you got, the all this this hype around Fabio breathing down your neck constantly about how he's going to be the future challenger of Marquez, and Mav's like, well, what about me? I've been winning races. So,
that was literally him, right? Like 3 of the
Yeah.
first 5 races for Yamaha, he's the guy. He gets
Yep.
Suzuki's first win. Like he was the heir apparent.
Talk
And
about
then-
failed to meet expectations.
Right.
well, that's the thing though, is towards the end of these races, he's doing the same lap times.
Or
as-
faster
as
because
Fabio,
he catches.
or faster catching them, and it's like, okay, you gotta find a way to put it out of your mind. And I'm not saying it's easy, because there's a whole world of voices around him that there's no way he's going to be able to block all that out, but he's got to find a way to fight through it and get back up front.
Is the full fuel tank thing complete bullshit? I am not fast enough to notice or know.
I mean, it makes
this.
a difference, but there's too many other variables. It's kind of the same thing I always say. Like, it's not going to be just one thing. Fabio has a full fuel tank.
Right.
And so does Marquez.
You know what I mean? But, comparing apples to apples, the same motorcycle, it's like, okay, he's doing the lap time, so, and they both end up doing the lap time. So where the difference is, it's got to be just in his, he loses that first half a second, and his mind maybe just goes in the gutter. And then he loses that time, and then when the pressure's off and he's no longer expected to catch them, all of a sudden he starts clicking off those laps. It's like almost like he's freed of that, and then he can just go ride his own race, and it's like, where was that in the beginning?
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
is-
It's
ahead.
interesting that earlier you brought up that like you almost like Fabio doesn't really have any prior knowledge of how it. The whole time I was watching, this weekend, I kept thinking of back when I think it was in like 2008. Rossi made like it was like a half hand, like a backhanded insult, right? Because he's like because they're all dicks in the end. It was about Stoner, right? Like he didn't know how a GP bike was like supposed to go. Right, and that's like how he could ride, that bike like that and around that. Like it was almost like he didn't have preconceived notions of the bike, so he was right, And it was, I mean, again, it's obviously paraphrased from
Maybe
10 years ago.
You can't discount that.
Right,
You can't
but yeah,
discount that, because the results are the only thing that matters.
right. But at what level do you think that Mav is just holding on to when that bike was perfect?
You know, you look
So
at
those
when he-
first three
when he-
races,
those first 5, 6, 7 races, he was getting dominant wins. He was fighting for podiums. Everything was gravy, and it's like, it's almost like chasing the dragon. You know what I mean? Like he took just a fucking huge hit of bath salts. You know what I mean? And he was just eating dudes' faces off left and right, and that was a dope high because you know everything goes in Florida. And then like, I mean, you know what I mean? But he's like chasing the dragon, right? He can never get that feeling back, but it's all he's focused on.
Yeah, I mean it's you know, Quatararo hasn't really experienced that plateau. You know,
Right.
he's just been on a steady upward trend. You know, so until he reaches that plateau or takes a step back, because that's how it goes, and it will go that way for him. Hopefully after he gets his first win, but you know, it's going to be, that's an adjustment for every rider at some point. Is, you know, even, you know, in 2017 to 2018, my results went backwards. Same motorcycle, trying to use the same setups, and things aren't working because I was riding at this level, which was good enough for what it was, and then all of a sudden everybody starts getting better and you get stuck.
Right.
You end up going backwards because, you know, if you're not getting better, you're really getting worse. You know,
Yeah,
and then it starts playing in your head.
It's a moving target. You know what I mean? Like,
Always.
I think there was talk, you know, that the Yamaha was still fat. Previous rounds they were doing horrible. They were still faster than last year. It's just that everyone else was a lot faster. You know, they're 4 seconds faster over race distance, but the other bikes are 20 seconds faster.
Yep.
Yeah, that's actually one thing that I haven't really looked at this year. I wouldn't be surprised though. There's been like Yamaha, especially now in the later rounds, the Yamaha definitely seems like they finally figured out their package. Like they're finally making the tires work, and that's what's leading to this consistency in the last couple of rounds. I mean, it's not working that great for Rossi. He always seems to be surprised when he gets to the race or something that the tire didn't work like this, or like even he goes into the warm-up lap and is like, "Oh, we're screwed." But obviously Maverick and Quatararo and even maybe Morbidelli here towards the end have found something to make the tires work and to get the bike around the track well. Whereas, and in comparison, like Ducati seems to have lost that, which is, I mean, I guess that's how racing goes, right? You're never, like you said, it's a moving goalpost. You're never just racing against yourself and just trying to go 4 seconds faster than last year. You got to go faster than the other guy too.
Right. And that's the problem with Ducati too, is that they've always, I mean, it's been what's held them back for, you know, even through, you know, Dovizioso's charges, is their lack of consistency. They'll win races and look dominant and be untouchable, and oh my God, there's so much motor, you can't pass them, blah 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 blah. Then they just will get 6th. You know, that's the problem with Mark.
You don't hear anybody talk about how, oh, this is a Yamaha track or this is a Honda track. You either hear that it's a Ducati track or not a Ducati track.
Right. Right.
You know what I mean? That's really all you hear.
Yep. Which is exactly that point, that at their not tracks, they're going to get 8th. They're going to get 6th. They're all going to be off the podium. Oh, and this actually leans into what we're going to talk about with Marquez, right? Is the championship in this kind of era that we have going, and even in World Superbike, is even more so won on your worst days. If you're not 2nd or 3rd on your worst days, you're not winning the title. And that's something that no one else
Not
besides Marquez, and not against Johnny Ray either. Right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you could win 9 races in a row and then still lose the title by 190 fucking points or whatever it is, because he never gets it. I mean, that's what I said. Imagine if Bautista wasn't racing. How many fucking wins would Ray have this year? Because look how many seconds he has. It's, you know.
Yeah, he'd be fighting for the record again of single season wins.
Right. It reminds me of when Danny Pedrosa had that 7-win season where he was rattling them off at the end of the season. What was that? 2012. But
still lost the title.
But still lost title because Lorenzo just never finished worse than 2nd.
That's the funny thing about it, is everybody says, oh, this is so good for the parity in World Superbike. All that Bautista's run did was create a stronger Johnny Ray for the future.
Right.
And
it prevented like Cowie from getting any in like RPM limits or in any other concessions against them. Like everything that it did was just made sure that he was able to finish 2nd and win for the rest of the season.
Right.
Johnny
Ray was like a boxer that got
someone was landing a jab a number of times, and he's like, I guess maybe Bautista drew a little blood, but all that made Ray do was double down on improving himself and the bike. Like the net result is that Johnny Ray's more unstoppable, and I kind of feel like that was 2015. All the drama between Valentino and Jorge, Valentino and Marquez, the kickoff and all that. Marquez lost that season because of a bunch of stupid DNFs, and look what's happened since. He crashes less in the races, he completely rebounded, and he's more dominant and consistent than ever. Like, to the point where you're like, God damn, because you think the race wins by RINs doesn't matter, because all Marquez ever done, he's never off the podium. And everyone else is just like, they're like this. It's wild to watch. It's the same thing with Ray. It didn't matter that Bautista won 13 races and all that shit, or 14 races. It's like, didn't matter because Ray never was off.
So existential crisis here then. What's more exciting? The GP races where we get like a new winner every third race, but the championship is obviously destroyed, boring, like blown out because Marquez is getting second the whole time? Or would you rather have a season where the championship was closer, but maybe we didn't get those exciting races? Maybe we had just a a plethora of boring races. What's better for the fans?
I mean, I guess just me personally, I want to see a tight championship.
But why?
Because there's more on the line when it comes down to the end of the season. I mean, look at MotoAmerica this year, right? Last race,
or British Superbike.
It's only two guys, but there's so much on the line that people want to see that.
Well, and you got that heartbreak and the choke.
Yeah, that's what gets the the kind of the non-endemic fans even more engaged. But like, if we had a barn burner at Phillip Island in a couple weeks in MotoGP, it'd be great, but it's just a race.
There's no stakes. Yeah.
It's just a race,
Right.
So if somebody crashes out of that and doesn't, if Marquez anybody crashes out of that, they didn't lose anything.
But in literature, when there's a character in a story whose existence doesn't affect the outcome, he's referred to as he has no agency. And I often think of that's like what races are once the championship is decided. These races have no agency. How they happen has no effect on anything on the greater whole, like the overall narrative of the story.
Like Indiana Jones, right?
Literally, yes. If Indiana Jones did not take place in Raiders of the Lost Ark, no aspect of the plot would have changed. The exact outcome didn't matter whether he was in the movie or not. And it's the same kind of idea. We don't have a lot of examples of like boring races, close championships. You see the 800cc era, the much maligned era, but you saw, if you look from 2008 to 2012, you had Stoner win, then you had Valentino come back, and then 2009 was a crazy close season. I think Valentino won the title only winning 5 races, super close, and then you saw Jorge come in and win, then Stoner come again. You had it switching constantly. Now, the races weren't always that great, and there was some economic collapse issues going on with only 12, 13 bikes in the grid and that kind of stuff, and then the rise of CRT bikes and all of that. But a lot of those championships were pretty interesting overall. It's like watching the NFL with no playoffs. The Patriot teams would just win. It's like 2007, the Patriots go perfect season, but then lose in the Super Bowl and lose the whole thing. That game had agency.
Would you rather see a Super Bowl that's a blowout or a Week 6 game that goes to overtime?
Right. Exactly. Couldn't be any more. You know what I mean? Yeah, you want to see the Niners beat the fucking Broncos 55-10, or do you want to see exactly, or do you want to see a double overtime game that ends in a fucking tie or something like that? You know what I mean? Like, exactly. And I'm not necessarily saying like playoff system and GP is the way to go, but this is the problem with 20 race seasons. If the shit is locked up, the flyaways are supposed to be like a couple years ago, people were lose their shit when the flyaways happened. It was going to be when the title came down, and it was going to be like always great races. You know, Sepang would make for a great race, and Phillip Island would make for a great race. And I mean, you went to Malaysia, I think, last year. The energy is fucking electric. Like, that's some of the greatest fans there are, right? Like, it's so packed, and now it's like you go to the flyaways, it's already decided.
Yeah, the crunch time doesn't really do anything if it's not for something.
When was the championship? When was it decided last year?
I think
three rounds ago.
I'm just wondering if it's before or after Malaysia.
I mean,
Because-
Malaysia.
I think it was Motegi. I think he locked it up, but I'm not sure.
Yeah. I mean, the only thing that gets close to a close championship, honestly, because of everything that surrounds it, is Rossi being in the front. That race in Malaysia last year between Rossi and Marquez was absolutely insane. You would have thought the world championship was on the line when he crashed and 110,000 people,
Collective
sighed
gasp.
at the same time. It was insane. It was crazy to be there.
Right, but why is that? Why and that's exactly sort of the point, is that a win by Valentino carries a greater weight than a single win because of the narrative along with it. He hasn't won in so long. He's in the waning years. He was the guy that brought GP to what it is, and now it's like, Brett Favre throwing one more touchdown pass type thing.
Does he have all of this following because of how many races he won or how many championships he won?
Right.
I mean, honestly, probably neither.
There you go.
It's probably because of the person that, like, how he won those races and, like, the persona that he built up, right? It's the storyline. Like Kev just said, the storyline that got Valentino to Malaysia and to that battle is what made it so exciting. And so that actually is the reason why I also agree that the championship is more exciting, because when the race is over, that's pretty much it. Like, you were excited about it, you're jazzed about it, you're going to tell your buddies about it, and maybe the excitement will last for 2 days, but you're not going to carry, that excitement's not going to carry you to the next round. Like, it's not going to even get you to the next weekend or 2 weekends from there. A tight championship battle is going to carry that excitement over when they're not racing.
Right, because that's sort of like the pros and cons of having 18 races, or is like there's actually a small number of events. Like, if you're a football fan and you like the fucking Green Bay Packers, right? You get past Tuesday, Thursday, but what do? You look at the other teams in my division. Okay, I'm paying attention to that because how do they line up for our championship? So you look at most like stick and ball sports, you have, other than who you're rooting for or the actual main event that you watched, we should say, there's like exterior factors that keep you entertained overall. Right? Like, if you're a Green Bay Packers fan, you're looking at your division, you're looking in the AFC, NFC West, and all that shit, and you're figuring, okay, how does this line up? If you're baseball, right? Okay, we're 2.5 games out of first place. That means that the Yankees got to lose.
There's only 100 to go.
Right, the Mets got to lose. But you know what I'm saying? There's other things that carry you past that block. And if, like, you have a podcast that you like and, like, they have shit going on and don't record for, like, 4 days, you don't have to lose your fucking mind over it because you have all kinds of other parts of this sport that you watch, right, that carry you through. But GP doesn't really have that because it all takes place on one day. So it's great that it's like the Super Bowl everywhere it goes, right? Like Malaysia, it's the Super Bowl because it's except for Spain, where they have like 19 races in Spain alone, you're generally the main, like, that's the event for that part of the world. So like Colin Edwards says, like, going to the Super Bowl everywhere you go. But if you don't have a championship that's close, that can make you text with your friends and post on Instagram and bullshit in threads about, like, if this happens, it's going to be this close. And, if Valentino, if Marquez crashes out twice and Valentino gets 3 wins on the bounce, he did it in 2008, he might be right mathematically back in it. You have these things that carry you through to the next week, exactly like Rob was saying. But when you don't have a close championship or you have an early decided championship, the like the wind in your sails is doesn't last long. You're not getting carried beyond a certain point of, well, that was fun.
Well, and it's funny that you even use the word Super Bowl, because if it's not a close championship, it literally can't be like the Super Bowl, because the Super
Right.
Bowl is the final match. It's
Right.
the decider. Where you're just watching a regular season match, and it matters less, right? Even a regular season match would matter more than.
To use a football analogy, would Eli Manning's crazy throw into the end zone at the very end of that game that wins the Super Bowl have been as legendary as it was if it just won a game, but the Patriots were still the champions? Right.
That'd be so terrible.
Right. It's hard because I'm not saying I'm advocating for a playoff system, because I do think there's sort of the period, because like Marquez is the best. He's the best rider in the world right now.
Yeah.
Certainly the package of him, his bike and his team is the best, fastest, most complete motorcycling team package there is. So he should be the champion. You know?
And if we made a playoff system for them, he would still be the champion.
Maybe.
He would likely still be the champion.
It's likely.
Yes, maybe.
But the idea that a playoff system that would rig it, or a playoff system would make the chance that he wasn't, be difficult.
Yeah. I mean, and so many sports have tried this, right? Like NASCAR, I don't know if they still have their playoff system. Obviously, BSB has theirs right now. And some of them get success. Others do it simply, it seems, to like prevent someone from winning a 7th championship or title or anything.
So in 2012, we had the XR 1200 showdown.
Yeah,
There was a showdown for the Harleys.
Yeah. Yeah, so they
Describe
announced
it
it at the
for
beginning
us.
of the year, where the last 5 races of the year, we had 12 rounds that year. The last 5 races, they reset the top 10 to 0, and it was game on.
Wait, were they double headers, or was it just single races, 12 rounds?
So they reset it to 0. As in
like
the
they
first 7
evened the
races
top
had
10.
no bearing.
Had nothing to do with it. As long as you got in that top 10, you were in that showdown with an equal chance. As you know, if you were 10th, you were back to 0 with the championship points leader. So the thing that was interesting is it really took a lot of the, you know, there was nothing at stake in those first, 7 rounds. It was like, we're just kind of racing to, size each other up until the last 5. But it was a big deal for the last 5. But I think it worked because it was a spec class.
Right.
Leveling the playing field was what the class was all designed for, being the rules that were so tight and everything. So
well, and I could see that too,
yeah.
because the first 7 rounds were like testing to get everyone on equal footing for the last blast of the last 5 races.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like that wouldn't even work in Moto 2 because it's not spec enough. Like someone would bring out a new chassis for the last 5 and win it all or whatever.
I say they put all those Triumph motors in XR 1200 chassis. Let's see how it goes.
Be the lightest Harley that ever existed.
And my money's on Hafiz.
But yeah, exactly. That's the first thing I said was fucking put him on a second Ducati. Then Kyle's like, I don't have the money for a second Ducati.
Yeah. Hey, maybe we can get that Patronus money. Let's go.
He probably does. He sold a lot of shirts.
That's what's up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah, I mean, manufactured parity is an interesting aspect in sports, because the point of, you have to sort of wonder what, that's good. Football has manufactured parity like crazy all of the time. They're constantly changing the rules, and for whatever reason, they're able to change the rules and use a playoff system and have all of that enables maintain popularity and not seem like they're rigging it, so to speak, even though things like how well you do in the season affects your season the next year, when you can get draft picks, what draft picks you have, a playoff system that allows some divisions that are incredibly weak to still send guys to the second round or get buys, those kind of things, and people don't really complain about it. I don't know if you could do that in racing or not.
Well, those sports have negative feedback loops, right? Like the draft picks are, if you win, you get less advantage for the following season. There isn't
Right.
any of that in motorsports. Like we talked about this before with Cal's comments about Taka Nakagami, right? Riders are expected to do more with less, and that's how they get more,
The
right?
reason is you have the variable of the equipment.
Right.
You know, so the version of that we see in motorsports is what they do in World Superbike. You know, that's how they keep those things more under control. If you are kicking everybody's ass, then you get a little bit of a penalty on your RPM limit.
Yeah, and that's like the first one in motorcycle racing that has hit the world stage, right? And they only did that in response to constant homologation specials and costs spiraling out of control, and the back half of the field being further back than me in my super sport races. No, that was an
The
exaggeration.
added caveat that people don't race like it you don't race World Tour like and put your bike out there to have negatives added to it to make it look worse because you're trying to sell it. You're trying to sell that bike or that brand or derivatives of that bike. So you're not really interested in a participant that creates you like if the Patriots get a worse draft pick, that doesn't make Tom Brady look worse. Or that doesn't make like Tom Brady jerseys thread counts look like they're lower and you don't want this piece of shit because it's gonna have holes in it after the first wash. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah, the
but
product is still there. Yeah.
the product has not been devalued. The reason that you're going has not been devalued. Whereas if you have these negatives applied or these parity rules, it is sort of a negative applied when the reason motorsports exists for on the large scale is to sell that same product or some kind of derivative of that product. Ducati doesn't necessarily sell I mean, I think they sell how many V4Rs, but those V4Rs are what sell this many monsters.
Yeah,
Like
it's not that you buy that exact motorcycle or there wouldn't be prototype racing to sell motorcycles to begin with.
right.
It's that you become a fan of the brand.
Yeah.
You buy any Ducati.
Right. Or any 125cc Honda with a Repsol paint job, in Thailand or wherever they're putting the bike,
They're
or
selling
Brazil
a lot
in
more of
2021.
those. Oh, Brazil. Tell us
They are
about that.
returning to Brazil. They announced it today.
What track?
Their brand new track. It looks like Catalunya, but deflated. If you pull up the thing, it's just like a shitty version of Catalunya. But they are returning to Brazil in 2021.
I'm fine with them trying to copy a brilliant racetrack because it'll probably be better than some of the
Right.
Tilke abominations that we've had otherwise.
The worst. The question being is, are they going to remove a race or are they going to simply add another race?
We weren't really going to talk about this, but I'm fine with them keeping. I actually want the season to be a little bit shorter, and I don't really care that much how many races are in there. Like, yeah, I know that
you just want start end date to be shorter.
Yeah, like if they pack 21 in there, like I could live with it. So as long as the race season didn't like begin in February and end in November. Like the time, the gaps between races and the overall time are more taxing on me than having to watch another race. Like, I mean, we like Supercross here in the United States, like I don't even know how many times they race, but they race practically every damn weekend. Right. And it's bam, bam, bam. There's some excitement level because of that. If they had 2-week breaks in between all of them and it droned on for the entire year, that would be absolutely terrible.
I mean, that's my complaint about American baseball. It's the fucking it's just too long. It's too long, and that's one of the genius things about American football is that it's actually a particularly short season, all things considered, and it puts a lot more weight on every game.
Yeah, which I guess in the end they have the playoff system. In motorsports, there's a give and take to both of them, right? If we had very few races, no one would improve, nothing would really change. If we have too many, Marquez wins them with 6 races to go, right? Like I don't know, they kind of had it right with 16, 17, 18, and now we're screwing it up.
What you thinking?
Well, I don't know. It's just, I mean, for me, I want more racing. Period. I mean,
well, you only get 10.
I wish that we had 12 rounds. I I don't want to have to pay to go to 12 rounds, of course. So 10 is where we're at. But I mean, I've never obviously raced on the world stage, but 20 rounds in 18 countries, whatever it might be, that's pretty crazy. I mean, just flying to Sepang once just to watch a race. I can't imagine going back to Europe after Phillip Island and having however many days or whatever. I mean, I think World Superbike, I don't think a 2-month break is necessary, but World Superbike has a more manageable World Championship schedule.
Yeah, with the double headers and still a reasonable number of races because of that. Well, actually, now it's an absurd number of races because of the Super Pole race, but that's a whole nother topic.
I think sort of the main problem with the whole last 15 minutes is if there wasn't a Marquez, the championship would be super close, and you have all these different winners and up and down riders, and the problem is there's just one guy who's mad good.
Yeah.
And it's with one team and one manufacturer who is just wholly dedicated to him. I mean, Alberto Puig's just hey, fuck all you guys. You're slow. We don't care.
He
faster.
said that. He pretty much said that.
He went pretty much. He's just we don't give a fuck. You're slow. Jorge should try harder. No, he can't get out of his contract, and he should try harder. You guys are slow. I mean, it's I gotta respect that to a certain extent, right? Because hey, we got a guy here who's winning and kicking ass just fine, so it's all good. But I think that it's kind of like World Superbike. If it wasn't for one guy being, outrageously dominant, it'd be different. And dominance in the series is somewhat regular, but it feels like this one is so predetermined. I think that was the beauty of Valentino when he switched to Yamaha, was it made 2004 not feel predetermined. Because even in 2003, there was some rumblings. If you go back, watch that, oh my God, he's already, he's winning 9 races. He just won 11 races. I remember, going and having watch parties, having my friends say anyone but Valentino. We like him, but we want to see someone else win by now. And then he switched over. I think I'm not trying to say the GOAT, you have to switch to prove it, but people are kind of bored by it. He's going to win. He's the best. I said this at the beginning of the year. I don't really like his manufacturer persona, but come on, man, it's fucking unreal. He's the best overall package out there. Him, Repsol, the Honda, how it's all working it's working.
I'm surprised you haven't made a package joke yet, Kev.
Right? Rob wants to talk about his package.
See, I told you, everyone. He only does it for me on command.
Yes, exactly.
I mean, that's the problem. Is it's too perfect. There's no controversy. There's no when Crutchlow says, oh, it's a bike that only one guy can ride. I want Marquez to run to the media and say, no, fuck him. It's good for everybody. And, that's the stuff that we miss, but he's just smile and wave. Smile.
Yeah, I would, if Marquez was a little salty, if he was only one guy can ride, hell yeah, because I'm the fucking best.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If he put a little stank on something, that'd be hilarious. Yeah. I mean, it would make me a fan, but it's smile and wave. That behind the scenes thing that said he didn't know the plan for the pool table and he didn't know what was going on until they got to the track, and just go along with it? Sure thing, boss. Let me do what you say. Just let me ride them motorcycles. What the fuck was that? That makes it even worse to me.
Did you notice that the camera angle when he was actually taking the shot at the 8-ball wasn't actually pointed at the balls in case he missed it?
Right.
They didn't want to create a highlight reel of him missing the shot.
Of him missing the shot. Right.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
just fucking Spanish media wizards itself. Over there.
Yeah, I mean, I exactly. I wish you could at least spice it up with you're damn right I'm the best, or only one guy can ride it because only one guy's putting in the work or something. You know what I mean? Just throw shade. What do they care? I mean, that, like you said, it's too perfect. Like we've had this talk that if you look at like the classical hero's journey, he's missing like the fall, and that's why a lot of people just can't get on board with it. You know, like he's missing the like fall, and then the redemption, and then the like come back. We're having learned new things, and then now new skills. He doesn't. He's missing that aspect of like the classical hero's journey that just simply makes it hard. And it's like we all know in the back of our minds, like we all know like in the back of our minds at the highest level the sport kind of exists just to sell you shit. But since it's like exciting, we're like, okay, it's cool. Like it's all basically corporate shit. But like we all, like everyone's like, I wish cigarette money would come back because then everyone would have money. And like quietly, like I just, no one mentioned cancer. You know what I mean? Like, we just want to have exciting bikes. Let's just not talk about that part. Like everyone doesn't talk about the fact that the sport essentially exists to sell you shit. But Marquez makes it so painfully obvious that, like, it just exists to be an image that it's rough. Like, that's what I love about Fabio. Fabio is, like, he's just, like, this crazy French kid. He's all tatted up. He's hella fast. He's not really supposed to be there, but he is. Like, that's why everyone loves him. I have yet to meet anyone that doesn't, like, root for Fabio to win this year. Like, that's the number one thing everyone wants. Everyone is stoked because he was the underdog that, like, rose up. And remember when he won Moto2 last year? Remember when he was freaking the fuck out in Parc Ferme? Like, genuine human, like, emotion. Just like Redding at the end of his GP career, like stripping naked in Valencia. Like, that was punk rock. I'm not trying to see Beyonce manufacture. Yeah, Beyonce can sing. Yeah, she's really good at singing, but I don't need to, like, know that she's got 27 songwriters and producers. Yeah, exactly. 27 songwriters and producers and perfect, like, stagecraft. Just give me Joey Ramone. Some shitty dudes on guitar, don't even know how to play, and they're just kind of screaming into the song, but it's awesome.
I love the implication of genuine human emotion with Quatararo just saying that Marquez doesn't have that. Like, now we've talked about it before that he's the T1000, and it's becoming more painfully obvious. Every single title that he wins, every race that he wins. So, but if he was a T1000, he would have been able to make a longer shot on the pool table, not like that, like 5-inch bullshit,
Right. Rob don't like fuck with that. Rob don't like fuck with no 5-inch sticks. Give him a big, thick, meaty one.
Pull out your handsome one, Kev.
Until we see that true adversity that he's got to overcome, it's gonna be tough on all of us.
All right, we've done enough. We've done enough Marquez painfully obvious that we don't like him talking here. So let's switch it up. We talked a little bit about
hold on. I want to say one thing about that before you go back. I don't dislike Marquez. He's probably a fine dude. What I dislike is the Marquez Repsol Honda like package marketing thing. I mean, don't get me wrong. I probably would do a lot of stuff to just fly around the world and ride a cool bike all the time and get paid for it. I might shut my mouth on a lot of things, but like it's so old. That's all I'm saying, right? It's so old. Like I'm sure he's fine and he's incredibly talented, but if this story never changes and it's just Repsol, Honda, Dorna, Marquez, everything is perfect. Like, I don't want everything perfect. Sometimes strife is cool. Sometimes listening to sad music is cool. Sometimes, like we don't want perfection. Didn't you see The Matrix? No. They made 8 previous Matrixes, and the humans got rid of them because they were too perfect. The Matrix.
I want to add one more thing, too, because...
All right, you get one thing as well.
Human nature will not allow him to... himself not get bored with this at some point. He's not going to ride this all the way to the end of his career. It just can't be.
I mean, he could pull a stoner and just like bounce.
He's going to get burned out on something. He has to.
Right.
So that's the fall that Kev wants in his hero's journey. Hopefully. A good burnout, a self-inflicted burnout.
The fall that we can hope for would be more like a, change of personnel, and now he's a little bit tired of it or whatever, and he has reason to go somewhere else. I don't want to see the kid get hurt. I don't want to see big mechanicals, which, by the way, I believe that crash was a mechanical. Anyway, we just want to see something that kind of disrupts the flow somehow, and not in a bad way. Maybe he does get pushed out, gets knocked down, and he has to claw his way back. Now he's got even bigger fan base.
If my final thing on this, if he goes to KTM, we will put him on a shirt and start the bandwagon.
Right.
Like that. That's it. That's all I have to say. This is Danny Pedrosa, by the way, on the original Brotendo. See it? Notice how small the body is. It's not Marquez. No, that's it. Yeah, we want that hero's journey to be complete. We want it to get rolling because right now it's
Marquez it was what they wanted out of Pedrosa.
It's like, yeah, I mean, literally, that's it. That is literally, and he is sort of the critique of what everyone said about Pedrosa in like 2006, 7, and 8, except by not winning, by the end of Pedrosa, everyone's like, man, I just want him to win one. He came on the other side where the same people who were decrying him were rooting for him.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and Marquez can crash all the time and not get hurt, and Danny Pedrosa was never able to do that.
How sore is he going to be when he's 50?
I don't know. And now he's riding the KTM. I don't think he's crashed it yet. I'd have to check some testing right
because he's not racing.
that too.
All
right,
your point.
Moving on. Oh no, the final point was putting him on a T-shirt.
Was his point, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jumping over to World Superbike real quick here, and kind of some good news. So Garrett Gerloff is actually signed for the GRT Yamaha team to be teammates with Caricasulo, if I'm not mistaken.
Woo-woo.
That's what it sounds like.
The Germans from Speed Week they seem to be the only credible rumors that you can ever find. Like if you read the Italian media rumors or GP1 or whatever, like no, they get it right 25% of the time.
Speed Week broke the Zarco quitting story.
Yeah, they're 3 weeks ahead of everyone.
No one believed it. Yeah, and that was a crazy one. Like they broke some crazy stories. You know what I mean?
Yeah, if you just download the translation plugin for your browser or learn to read German, go to Speed Week. They've got it. It's great.
They've got it all.
But yeah, so I don't know, Kyle. You were telling us. No, you weren't.
In case you weren't supposed to be telling us.
Okay.
But yeah, so we finally have an American moving. We finally have another American moving over to the World Paddock, and on a competitive motorcycle this time. So I'm quite excited,
isn't it?
That is the key. It also seemed like
Superbike more than anything.
There were quite a few publications that forgot that Gagne raced an entire season in World Superbike recently. It was kind of sad. But no, back to Gerloff. Someone take it.
I'm pumped for him.
Is that your pumped face?
This is my pumped face.
That's his pumped face.
He's been wanting to do
face?
This. He's been. Garrett's been wanting to get over there for a long time. I've known Garrett for a long time. I think the first time I met him was out in Talladega before he was probably 14 riding R6. And 2 years ago, he started learning Spanish and got an instructor, and he's fluent in Spanish.
Nice.
He wants to find his way over there. He's been wanting to do that for a while. And now he finally has, a couple wins and stuff to stand on, and he's going to get a really good shot. The best shot since Ben Spies, I would say, for sure, for any American going over.
I mean, Ben Spies went over there on an undeveloped R1 and managed to somehow do amazing things. Gerloff's going over there on a bike that has some results already, which is, and even podiums from the second team as well.
From that team, yeah. I'm definitely stoked to see it. when I saw the news, I was sort of like, okay, well, who's going to take that seat that that he's leaving? And I was like a double-edged sword for me. I'm like, oh, I don't want like good people to leave MotoAmerica, right? Because we want the series to still be like ascendant. But I really hope he goes over there and does well and gets obviously more Americans watching, gets more people involved, and I'm excited for it because it's like you said, when Jake went over there, it's like, okay, and when he's like on the Honda, like you didn't even care, right? It goes the same way we said, no agency. There's no weight to anything. So that it's like, I'm not trying to talk shit, but it's like Joe Roberts in Moto 2. Like,
If only he wasn't the third tier KTM.
Right,
Yeah.
he's there, and I don't want Gerloff to just be there, right? And this is actually, like you said, this is a chance where he's not just there, but he's there like with the ability to prove something and do something. It's a new story, and it's new interest. And the common, critique of World Superbike was it was like British Superbike International, with the riders. But now, we have someone going over there, and Josh went over there a few years ago, and we actually had an interview with him, and it was pretty tough. And some of the stories he said about like parts that he was getting from his sponsors going to Zarco's bike on the Suitor was kind of shitty. But I'm thinking that Gerloff's in probably like you said, the best position that an American has been on in the world stage in a while.
Yep. And then if he is going to be teamed up with Caricasulo, then he's got a rookie teammate, right? So. He's got, I think GRT and the factory Yamaha team are pretty tight knit. Like I think they're actually providing the bikes to GRT, so they share across everything. So he's gonna have what sounds like Vandermark and Toprak.
Yeah,
on the factory team.
That's pretty much.
And
I'm
then,
pretty sure Razgatlioglu was already confirmed on that bike.
Yeah. So then, you got a really good measuring stick. For him to go out, and I think he's gonna be able to adapt. I mean, it took him a little bit of time to adapt to the R1, but I mean, not to where he wasn't on the podium. I mean, he was on the podium pretty much straight away on that thing in MotoAmerica. So, I think that the last few years being in Superbike, I went into Superbike in 2016, and that's when Tony came along, and my gap to the front grew throughout that year, even though I felt like I was progressing, because I think Tony came in and he elevated the entire series when he jumped on that Yosh bike. And the level I feel like has continued to grow. Cam's got, I mean, you're just seeing these guys leapfrog each other and push it even further and further. I feel like we're more on the limit than we've ever been in my history of being in AMA Superbike and MotoAmerica. And I think Garrett's as prepared as you could be. You could almost compare this to, people compare Beaubier to Matt Mladen because he hasn't made that jump over to another series. I feel like Beaubier's conditioned Gerloff, and even this year, Gerloff, I felt in the middle of the season, surpassed Cam at a couple rounds, and Cam talked about it on one of his podcasts, having to go back to the drawing board and kind of figure his way out. Those guys pushed each other to another level. And you saw the Yosh bikes really struggle toward the end of the year. I don't think that was them going backwards. I think those guys just pushed each other even further. And I think Garrett's well-equipped, really well-equipped.
Do you have any experience on the Pirellis with a Superbike?
Not with a Superbike, just Daytona on a 600.
Do you think they're easy to learn?
I felt like it was a pretty natural transition. The rear's the rear. I feel like, for most people, you put any rear tire on, it's easy to find the limit of something and then kind of ride within it on the rear. But the front tire might be an adjustment, but it has more grip. And, whenever a tires come in that offered more grip, Garrett's been able to maximize that pretty well.
You mean like
on a 600 and a Superbike,
the extra soft that they were using the entire season once it was introduced on the Superbike?
Yeah, perfectly introduced for him.
Who do you think takes the seat that he had?
I don't know. It sounds like JD is going to flat track next year.
Yeah, that's what he said. Full-time flat track.
It sounds like he's going to flat track. So, Skoltz is staying put. You know, there might be a little bit of a competition over that seat. Maybe I should make a phone call.
Boom.
I was gonna pipe in that it's not going to exist anymore, but so full on MotoAmerica rumors, right?
No, as far as I know, there's going to be 2 Yamaha Superbikes.
Yeah,
under that
it's
tent.
but it's 2 Yamaha Superbikes run by Attack, meaning the Attack Superbike is going away. So in my eyes, it's 3 Yamaha Superbikes paring down to 2. But yeah, so I mean, I was
eyes.
picturing. What'd you say?
Hate your eyes.
Yeah.
Your eyes.
I was thinking that JD was gonna stay and that Cam was gonna be on the other one, especially already being at Attack. But yeah, but if he goes to flat track, then man, if he goes to flat track, we're losing even more talent in the paddock. That's 2 solid riders that aren't gonna be there anymore. Like we can't have 10 or fewer Superbikes on the grid next year.
You know, at the front where the cameras are pointed, whether there's 10 or 30, you know,
Right.
it's pretty damn good racing.
It
You know,
is,
every
but it's
weekend.
but we're at the racetrack and like seeing 10 people on the starting grid, seeing 10 riders come back into park from seeing 10 at the taking off in the launch is just not as exciting as even 28 R3s or whatever. No, that's definitely not true. But like Super Sport was 21 to 28 the entire year. And I think it's just a bad look. But yeah, on TV, don't freaking notice.
You know, some of these riders should probably start their own team and bring in a new manufacturer or something.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I
And
mean,
get a
sport or
second bike
something.
going. Get a second bike going too.
I don't know about that.
just get
You know, they should definitely start a team and bring in a new manufacturer.
right. I mean, I don't know. You look back at we were talking earlier about the 800 era and close championship not great races, but there was some crazy races. Like when you go back and look at Catalunya 2009 with Valentino and Jorge, no one really talks about the fact that there was only 12 bikes in the grid. It's just that it was a dope race for the lead. I'll be honest. I remember Mladen and Spies going. I have no idea how many bikes were on the grid. When when Jake Zemke won his Honda, I don't know how many bikes were on the grid. I don't buy the John Ulrich line that you have to have this massively large grid for entertaining races. Like if you've got a number of well-supported factory bikes, I don't really care whether there's 15 privateers behind them or 8 privateers behind them.
The problem with me, the problem for me in MotoAmerica though is fewer bikes on the grid is just signifying that we haven't hit bottom yet, right? Like looking back on the 800cc era is all in good because we know that CRTs happened and then the spec electronics, and now we're in the 1000cc era where we at least get to decide whether or not we'd rather have exciting races or an exciting championship, right?
Right.
If you define bottom by having the least amount of bikes on the grid, then sure, that's your bottom. I define bottom as having a schedule of 5 races that came out on February 3rd in 2014.
And that
I
was
define bottom as 2 cheeks and just a right butthole right in the middle. You know what I'm talking about? Just balloon, and balloon knot. That's what I'm talking about. Kyle hasn't seen Big Mouth, so these jokes are great because he's just looking at me like he doesn't any idea what I'm talking about.
straight over his head.
Yeah.
The voice is just going to be even better when he finally does watch Big Mouth. Like he's going to just be thinking about you saying those things.
Yes,
and
exactly.
Hannah will look over and be like, "Why are you laughing? That wasn't even funny." And it's like, "It's because of Kev."
I mean, I agree with what Kyle was saying. 5 races is not a good look. I think that more races and restricting back to the Attack team running it is is it any worse than Graves running it? Yeah, it's not necessarily full factory, but
Graves didn't run it.
But
pretty much ever. It was full.
Okay.
It was full factory.
Is the Yoshimura Suzuki a full factory team?
Oh,
Absolutely.
They have
run out of the Yosh truck.
Yeah, they have Suzuki technicians in the garage, right, or underneath the pop tents, right? So
it's a factory team. Same with now the Supercross team is now run out of the same shop.
No way.
It's the Yoshimura Suzuki factory racing team. So I mean, it's
okay. Let me ask you on a slightly more positive note, Kyle. With Garrett going over
So you talked about Tony came over, right? He came over. He was originally just a tester, right? He did like a couple test rides in the bike. He got the ride, and he blitzes it.
He was a
Does really
replacement
well.
rider.
Replacement rider. Yes, blitzes it, does really well, and then as Kyle was talking about earlier, it caused everyone to elevate their game. I actually remember at Sonoma Raceway, that's almost verbatim what Cam said, that he's actually glad that Tony came and won that championship because it forced him to take a step up in skill level that he wasn't even sure he had. So he said that to like us in person. Like, I'm glad he won that championship. Do you think Garrett going over and doing well allows more foreign riders or talent from other places to look at MotoAmerica and now think, oh, that's a place I want to go ride? Or that, which, theoretically puts more viewers, on the series or sponsors into the series.
Well, I think, it doesn't even start there. I think that the fact that Garrett is going to go over there is proof of concept that is the case already. Right. They're taking a guy who hasn't even won the championship over here, thinking that he can be someone they can develop. Nobody hires anybody over there unless they think they can develop them into a podium or a race winner, especially a team that's been on the podium.
Right.
So they believe that the level is high enough in their eyes in America that he's going to be able to do that. So, and yeah, if he does well, it's gonna widen the path a little bit. Maybe there's more opportunities for other guys to go over and get on those bikes.
But I mean, to Kev's question though, is we also need guys to come back here, right? Because I would love to see 10 Tony Elias's like on the grid. Well, not just actually. I really don't want to see. I want to see 10 solid rides that have that level of support and can actually be fighting towards the front, right? You're never going to find 10 riders that could do that every single race in and race out. But I'm still seeing the money in the United States leave and not supporting racing anymore. If it takes an international rider like coming over, bringing his sponsors to race over here, that would be fucking amazing. And I mean, if Garrett gets on the podium, maybe people see MotoAmerica as a place where they can, they can take their money that they have that's not getting them like a Moto2 ride. They can come to America, maybe get a slightly better ride, podium over here, and then get back into the World Championship. That'd be tits. But I don't know if that's a viable option just yet. I guess we got to wait and find out.
No, I mean, I think it would take a long time to get back to that point. Because that was the case for a little while.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, there was a time when it was viewed as superior to World Superbike.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was the biggest production series in the world, or the most talented. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's gonna take guys going over, and the problem that happened with when Spies went to World Superbike, he was almost treated as a refugee. Like. He got off the ship as it was sinking.
Right.
So it's like, they're like, well, that's in the past. We don't have to look over there anymore. We got the best. We're never going to get anything like him again. It's taken now 10 years for our series to be thought of at a level that those teams feel like they can start looking over here and holding our riders in higher regard. So rock bottom's behind us in my opinion, because what I want is growth in the level compared to the world, because that's what's gonna, especially in my case, the Italians, they don't care about anything but winning or supporting me if I'm not on the podium or I'm not in the top 5. They don't really care because they don't think of this series as the level of World Superbike. If this level continues to grow comparatively to the rest of the world, then the manufacturers start taking it a little bit more serious.
Well, I mean, if Garrett puts it on the box like early in the season, that even solidifies your level, because you developed the motorcycle the entire year and then finally got some solid results at the end of the season, right? After working through so much stuff, right? And not that, like, how the last 2 races, you were quite close to all the bikes at the front, like only a couple of seconds in that last.
Closest, I think it was I think we were 11 seconds
Yeah.
off the front, which is the closest we've been. We were 5th in the last race. Tony got me with 3 corners left, and I would have been 4th, but that was our top 5 we were chasing all year. So yeah, it's pretty crazy how far we came with this bike from them arriving on March 1st.
Right. I remember sweating it. Like,
Yeah.
are they even going to arrive?
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. It's pretty wild. So
They made it to the first round.
they made it.
No, but
Wheels and an engine.
So like with the bar is set. Like Gerloff gets some results in World Superbike, whether he's on the podium or not. The bar is set. Then everyone in the world stage knows where even you stand up compared to the rest of the World Superbike riders.
In a way, that's why, for us over here, it's like, I hope he gets a good bike. I hope he gets a good opportunity. I hope he's not treated like, a second rider and put into a position to fail like Heron was, or, I hope that he's given a real shot. And I feel like he wouldn't be signing that contract if he wasn't given that shot, because he's got a contract to ride for Attack Yamaha in front of him right now, or maybe not anymore, but he has that security that he could stay here and try to compete for a championship, and that's pretty much, as a rider, that's your end goal. But he's willing to take the risk to go over there and try to make something happen. So I respect that.
Well, and for the deal to go from Tenkate Yamaha to GRT Yamaha, like, I want to know what was running through his mind. Like, oh man, like I don't know if the Tenkate thing is going to go through, and then all of a sudden the contract gets that much sweeter, right? Like Tenkate didn't even do the entire season because they got dropped by Honda last season, and they were finally trying to put the bike together. Then they get Loris Baz to ride a portion of the season, and he actually got some like okay results. They weren't amazing, but they were pretty good for what the team had put together.
I thought they were amazing. I mean, he's been battling for the podium ever since they came on halfway through the season.
Yeah, on a team that didn't have
4 other
experience.
Yamahas on the grid.
Yep. Well, and to that point, that probably agrees with what you've been saying, that Yamaha is pretty tight knit. I bet you even Tenkate was getting some support. I mean, Scott Smart told us at Laguna Seca that all those regulations about the factories having to put out software updates for the satellite teams, like, and locking things down, like essentially just the satellite teams just get whatever the factory is running and they just use it. So there's a lot of parity in the electronics there, and for the Yamaha squad, it definitely seemed like it helped out. Like all those bikes are solid.
Yeah, and that extends to here. I mean, I have the same software as what Chaz and Alvaro are on. Because we've aligned with World Superbike rules. Now, it's only as good as the guy, clicking the buttons and, putting the numbers in the cells and everything, which I have a really good guy, fortunately. But, we've created this path where when Garrett goes and rides that bike next year, he knows what he can ask for. He knows what he can look at on the data. Everything, it's the same exact system. So last year when MotoAmerica decided to say, all right, everybody, you got to run exactly what's running in World Superbike, I thought it was a big move. The reason they did it was so that this path could be a little bit more beaten, where Garrett could go up and be more familiar with the system.
Yeah, so now he has one less thing to adapt to when moving onto the world stage now. Yep. Now it's tires and tracks and maybe a slightly different motor build.
That's it. Transmission, that's the only thing that's different. It's built by a different person, but the only thing that's different in the rules is that in World Superbike you can run a kit transmission, you can change, individual gear ratios.
Yeah, but I think they get 2 sets and that's it, and they have to specify them at the beginning of the year.
And you have to declare what your transmission is.
Yep. Oh man. Yeah, I have high hopes. Like, he's got some short leathers to fill. I've been saving that one up. No, yeah, I mean, with that team, Marco Melandri and even Cortese getting amazing results throughout the season, like, I don't know, my hopes are through the roof for that one.
I'm tempered. Like, I don't want to put too much on it. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
go over there, get your feet wet, find where you're at, and then slowly start working. I don't necessarily want him to set things on fire as much as steadily improve and show that like adaptation and getting better. And I mean, it'd be cool if it was like Spies, he rolled over and got like pole position his first thing, and then Biagio ran him off track for no reason. Right? Remember that shit? But
didn't we
but
do? I feel like in 2018 we did a like 5 guys to watch out for in MotoAmerica, and we put Gerloff on there, and then
Yes.
he had like a crappy first half of the season.
Right, now he's there. Now he's in World Superbike.
We were just a year ahead of the game, you
Boom.
know. Just he had to make it back to
Was
Laguna.
Kyle Wyman on
2019.
that list?
I hope so.
Probably not.
That's redacted.
Just another Yamaha in the field. Who gives a shit?
We should have
Right.
done it. We should have done 2019 Ducatis to watch in MotoAmerica.
There
Yes.
you go. Short list.
Oh man.
First and last.
Boom.
All right, I don't think we got time to cover any more topics here, guys.
So,
There's so much more stuff going on in motorcycle racing that we'll have to get to next time.
we might have to keep recording. Holy shit.
Right? Oh wait,
Ooh,
you don't mean
You
right
don't like
now.
that you
You
got
mean
your
like
free
again.
content. Ooh, you should go find the other MotoGP podcasts that are funny and make jokes and don't censor themselves.
Oh,
wait,
wait,
aren't
there
any.
isn't
There
one.
aren't any. Oh God. Oh, that's too bad. Oh.
Kev, where are the flaps? You need the flaps to like
Yeah.
in your shirt, you know?
To
Just
pull
up
I
the-
don't want to cut up my Scoops Ahoy shirt. This thing
Oh
is too
yeah, that's
dope.
true. Everyone, that was. Please, I hope everyone you get that reference.
I don't care if you. Oh, you don't get that reference. You don't like to watch South Park. Oh God, you only have Netflix to stream. Buy Hulu, motherfucker. It's like $4.
This is in reference to my cable people coming today to set up my internet just in time for podcast,
Yes.
and coming literally with 2 minutes to spare in the window of time they designated for my appointment. So I sat around for an hour and 58 minutes, and they finally rang the doorbell.
Your window was only 2 hours, man. I get 4
Yeah, it
hour
was
windows.
pretty tight. Yeah. Oh, you can't wait around your house for 19 hours?
You should call the other cable company.
Oh, wait, there aren't any.
Right.
Well, the internet is working well enough as we could expect for Dorna trying to come at us and PG&E trying to disconnect the servers that this software is connected to. You know, it happens.
Right.
All right, everyone. We're going to sign
Global
off.
warming is a motherfucker.
Yeah, right? winds and fires.
Of which there are neither, by the way. It's not even kind of windy. It's like so still. My house is normally a particularly windy house, and there is no wind. There's no wind at all. No fires and no power.
Well, there are no fires because they turned the power off. And there's no wind because I told you there was going to be no wind tonight. I don't know. I checked the fucking weather forecast. I don't know what they're saying.
That's because being a weatherman is the only job where you can be wrong 50% of the time and doing a good job.
That'd be a great weatherman.
No, the best weatherman is Hawaii. You know why? It's 80 with a chance of rain.
San Diego, it's 72. Probably not going to rain.
Arizona, it's so hot, it's melting garbage cans.
It wasn't too bad when I drove through there on the way to Alabama. On the way back, like, Luca was driving for a little bit, and all of a sudden there was 4 inches of water on the road, and it was pouring. She freaked out. It was great.
Yep.
Yeah.
It
That
rains
sounds
in
like-
the desert. Monsoon season. That's what
That's
it's
right.
about.
Kyle's like, what the fuck are you doing talking about my state? Get out of here.
Right, exactly.
All right,
All
everyone.
right, guys.
Thanks for listening. Check out riderslaw.com for all your legal needs. We'll have Kyle back on for some Jeopardy at a later time. And we will catch you whenever the hell we want. Peace. Oh, man. We're so salty.
So salty.
So salty.
We're back.
Yep.